We are back with motivational speaker, author, and coach Almon Gunter. But before we were in the break, we were talking about the kids who train with you, and we want to know now what makes your kids different from others who are trying to make a name for themselves, because there are a lot of kids out there who want to move to the next level.
I think for my kids, the real difference is the consistency. They show up and they know the work's going to be hard, but the other part is the whole mental toughness side. At the end of the day, when you become physically fit, then it's easier. Sports is fun when you're fit, when you're in shape. But when you're not in shape, sports is not fun.
That must be my problem.
Yeah.
So,
there it is. We're not in shape.
So when you're in shape and you know that you're fast and you're strong, but more importantly, you know you're not going to take a play off, now you make bigger plays because you get to take risks. You get to take chances that you wouldn't normally take. So for me, it's about conditioning an athlete to a point to where we don't break down. So now mentally, we're going to put it on you.
All right, so let's talk Derek, because he is not breaking down.
No.
I know you have to be so incredibly proud of him and to make it to the Heisman ceremony. So
that's a big deal.
Tell me how you got involved with this training.
Well, actually, the way I got involved with Derek's training is their coach, Bobby Ramsey at Yulee, who's one of the most amazing coaches I've ever met, because number one, he's about developing kids. I mean, he cares about kids. But he called me 7 years ago when he got the job at Yulee because a teacher there saw him and said, look, you want to win? I know this guy, because she was bringing her kids to me. So Bobby called me up. I showed up at Yulee, and he said, look, you know, small team, they have only won one game in 2 years. They were 1-19.
Wow.
And so I said, look, I'm a little different. This is the deal. And he goes, okay. And so I went in and did their conditioning for
the whole team.
For the whole team.
Okay.
8 weeks in the summer, but I've done it now for 7 years. So Derek showed up, you know, going into his 9th grade year and had to learn how to work really hard, and he did. I mean, you know, when we first got him, I mean, he's always been a big kid, but growing into that body took a little bit of time, but he did.
So could you tell, it sounds like you really couldn't tell then he was destined for greatness, possible Heisman Trophy winner.
No, I think.
Or are there characteristics that you can tell?
I think by junior year, I mean, we knew that he was special just because he started to grow in a different way. He started to grow mentally. He started to be a leader. He started to step up. He started to do some things that, you know, when you're going to be an exceptional athlete, those are the things you have to do.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, an athlete is a dime a dozen, but an exceptional athlete brings a lot more to the game. You know, they can put a team on their back. They lead a different way. They're not afraid to step up. So Derek started to show all of those things, you know, his 11th grade year, and by his senior year, I mean, you knew.
Yeah.
I mean, look at this. We're looking at, he's not playing around.
I did that. That's kind of fun.
Yeah.
It really is. You know,
That's brutal.
When you first started training Derek, what were some of his weaknesses that you watched him just break through?
Really just trying to, his footwork, just really trying to make his feet move with the big body. You know, we do this thing called a pro shuttle, and it's really a change of direction thing. So he fell several times just because he was such a big kid, and he was only 14. But as he started to grow up and get, you know, the whole thing started to mesh out for him, he ended up winning like the Nike Combine, you know, in those same drills that when he was in 9th grade was very difficult for him.
That's
so
incredible.
I always say, you know, with kids, it takes time. The light bulb comes on for different kids at different times, so you have to be patient.
Yeah, and I also think, you know, I'm sure you would think the same way. Family, you have to have that support system, that foundation, those roots. Explain to the people who may not realize this, how important is it for your family to be behind you and for you to have someone there holding your back up, support system?
I think it's the most important thing. My mom used to say to me all the time, Almon, you can do bad by yourself, but you can't win by yourself.
Baby.
And so I learned that, you know, even in track and field, people like to think that it was just me. I had a whole team of people. I had coaches and my parents, and I had friends, and a lot of people supported me. You have to have people in your life that tells you can do it. But a lot of people go through life hearing that they'll never be anything, and all they're getting is negative information. That's why choosing your friends is so important. You have to put yourself in a position to be able to win.
Definitely. Now, besides Derek, you got an entire roster of athletes, especially the U.S. women's soccer player Carly Lloyd.
Oh, yeah.
Huge. I mean, obviously, her and the rest of the team brought us a World Cup win. How did you end up training her?
Okay, another crazy story. I'm in the airport, and I was flying to, actually I was flying to Philadelphia. My plane, it was during the winter, so I got stuck like in Kansas City. So I meet this guy. This guy's from Boca, and he says to me, you know, he gets off the phone with someone, and he turns to me, and we just start talking. Told him what I did, and he goes, hey, you know, my cousin's married to this guy who's a soccer player, and he wants to start this academy. And I go, oh, and he says, you know, he lives in Philly. He says, when you're up there, you should call him. I said, yeah, whatever. Well, sure enough, the guy calls me. So next time I'm in
So
Philly
random.
speaking, I call James, and so we meet, you know, we meet in Cherry Hill, and we sit down and talk, and he says, hey, I have this young lady. She played at Rutgers, and she's really a great soccer player, and I really think she could be great. He says, you know, can you take a look at her? And I did. And so I looked at how she ran, and I said, look, we got to change some stuff. So I started working with Carly. That's how it happened. So I started flying
That's
back and forth.
Well, listen, before we go, we want to give people the idea and viewers a chance to benefit from your motivational magic.
Yes.
I mean, because after you, we're like, we can do it. So give us 3 pieces of advice that you would give people to change their outlook. You use it with your athletes, but really, you've said it before, these are transferable skills. What
Well,
are 3 pieces of
I think the 3 most important things is your attitude, your behavior, and your effort. Because those are 3 things that you get to control. And as my grandfather would say, they only come in 2 flavors, good and bad. There's no in between. So every day you get to wake up and decide what your attitude is going to be. You get to decide what your behavior is going to be. And more importantly, you get to decide what your effort level is going to be. So think about it. If you made all 3 of those things the best that they can be each and every day, you'll never resent anybody and you'll never regret anything because you're the best that you can be. And that's all we're trying to do is be our best.
Okay, I have to hire you.
I'm ready to get some
Dr.
pull-ups.
Martin
Who's down?
Martin. He's left us speechless.
Pretty much.
I know.
It's what I do. It's what I do.
I know. You need to come out every day,
Incredible,
like
though.
when we're sitting at this table before the show starts at 2:55.
get a
Okay,
jab.
ladies.
We can arrange this. We can arrange this. This can be arranged.
Just enough to leave you wanting more.
Exactly.
Yes.
There you go.
Thank you so very much
you,
for
ladies.
coming and sharing your story with us. Please come back anytime. You're part of the chat family now.
All right. I love it.
That
I
seat's
love it.
always waiting on you.
Thank
Yes.
you.
And guys, if you'd like to learn more about Almon on his website, it's almonguntermotivates.com. There's where you'll find it. So coming up next on the chat, planning